Hi, I'm Brandon Daake, the registrar here at Heart Mountain, and I'd like to welcome you to this week's Digital Dust Off. The Japanese military was seemingly unstoppable in late 1941 and the beginning of 1942. The attack on Pearl Harbor was one of three nearly simultaneous attacks, with the other two occurring at Midway Island, a U.S. naval base in the Pacific, and the Philippines, then a U.S. protectorate. In early 1942, the Marines were forced to surrender at Wake Island, another U.S. naval base in the Pacific. Shortly after that, the invasion of the Philippines began, culminating with the Bataan Death March. Those losses, combined with panicked newspaper reports in the United States, always seeming to portend an invasion either of Hawaii or of the West Coast itself. Those newspaper reports combined with decades of deep-seated racism to create a sense of paranoia. And that sense of paranoia is what allowed Executive Order 9066 to be signed, the executive order mandating the expulsion of Japanese Americans from the West Coast. The first thing that Japanese Americans would see is these evacuation notices. They told Japanese American communities when they would be forced to abandon their homes, businesses, and lives, and contain some now rather infamous language. Families and individuals can take only what they can carry. They cannot take any pets with them, and nothing will be shipped to them once they reach assembly centers and eventually camps like Heart Mountain and the other WRA camps. While there is a provision for the government helping to establish long-term storage for large home goods and things like that, most Japanese Americans were forced to sell those goods for pennies on the dollar or simply never see them again. The sense of paranoia never really stopped surrounding the Japanese Americans either once they reached Heart Mountain and the other WRA camps. Frank Emmy, subject of a previous Dusted Off, collected FBI files after the war, mostly related to the Fair Play Committee in his own trial, but also related to Japanese American incarceration in general. This one contains a report that Millward Simpson, a local attorney and head of civil defense in Park County, claimed that subversive elements in Heart Mountain were buying extraordinary numbers of hand axes and knives, seeming to prepare for some kind of sabotage operation in Park County. While the FBI did investigate, they found that Japanese Americans were buying those items at a rate no greater than normal people in the county, and that there were hardly subversive elements in the camp to begin with. Perhaps the most insulting form of paranoia came in the loyalty questionnaires, first issued in the spring of 1943, especially with question 28, which reads, "Will you swear unqualified allegiance to the United States of America and faithfully defend the United States from any and all attack by foreign or domestic forces, and forswear any form of allegiance or obedience to the Japanese Emperor or any other foreign government, power, or organization?" For the Nisei, this was insulting. Not only were they the largest population of Japanese Americans, they were born here and were born with United States citizenship. They had hardly known Japan and could not possibly have been loyal to a government not their own in the first place. For the Issei, making such a declaration was almost impossible. They had never been allowed the opportunity to become naturalized citizens. If they forswore the emperor, they'd be essentially left without a home. Incarceration happened because decades of racism combined with panic to create a sense of paranoia. The legacy of incarceration can be how to avoid that same sense of paranoia today. I hope you enjoyed this week's Dusted Off, and I hope you join us next week as we share more stories from our collection.